Now let's talk with Patricia Farris. What a compelling message on a sensibility for diversity in this world in which we live. Patricia, I have a feeling that when you look into the eyes of your parishioners at First United Methodist Church in Santa Monica, or when you look into the eyes of the stranger, that you try to read your own thoughts there, that you see a sister or a brother. And how is that critical to ministry these days?
You're quite right. I think, making that connection one with another, especially with people who have different ideas from us or different points of view, is something of an ongoing spiritual task. With some people it comes very easily. You connect right away. It's easy to talk and converse and recognize that interconnectedness. Sometimes it's hard, with certain kinds of people or the ways in which certain people act. And I think it gets even harder when we look around the world and see photographs of people starving in Darfur or refugees, and we tend to objectify those people and think of them as those people, rather than lingering with those photos and thinking, this is my sister, this is my mother, this is my brother. And that is a spiritual task, which I think we have, and which changes our hearts and changes our lives.
Patricia, I'm struck by the difficulty of seeing the image of God in someone with whom you disagree strongly. And I loved your description of driving past the demonstration of the Nazis and your sense that God was very much with you in the car. And the question that came to me was God with them as well? How are they created in the image of God and yet acting that out? Where is God in their mix?
That's such an important question, and I've thought about it so many times, because frankly my first reaction was sort of to dismiss them, but I thought, well, they were kids, and they were youth, and I thought, what's going on in their lives that they are so angry and hurt? How do they see this as some sort of attempt to distinguish who they are in the world, however misguided? And what influences have they not had in their lives that would have shaped them and formed them in different ways? How do we begin, to reach out to them and try to have some sort of dialogue? And I'm not really sure, but I think that keeping the heart open even to them is an essential part of this work.
Patricia, when you arrived in Santa Monica, almost 10 years ago?
That's right.
And out, a beach outpost of L.A. How did you begin to reorient the culture of this otherwise large and very wealthy congregation?
I think we've worked a lot on small groups, on interpersonal relations, on conversations, on getting to know one another. More and more new people coming into our community are young adults, our families with young children, who have new perspectives on church and community and what they're looking for to support them in their life of faith. New and yet the same. And there's something wonderful about a congregation that's as old and as traditional as ours, in that it brings the resources of faith and the wisdom of generations to those younger people and younger families. So I think it's about affirming gifts as well as opening to the new.
And your role as a woman in ministry, aren't you among that small fraction of women who were able to break through to the pulpit of a mainline Protestant church?
Yes, it's still true. I just heard a statistic that at least in our United Methodist denomination, only 1% of senior pastors in large membership churches are women. So
you know about that, Lillian.
I do as well also. Speaking of United Methodism, though, in the mix of diversity that is the American religious landscape today, we know that people no longer feel an obligation to attend the church of their parents, and they really do venture from church to church looking. So I know you've just been in Oxford talking about the history of Methodism. What gift does Methodism bring to the whole diversity of contributions in the world religion? What makes it unique and special?
I was reminded again in that setting of the global reality of our denomination, because there were Methodists there from Southern Africa, from South America, from Korea, from the Philippines, from the British Methodist Church, and so on. And just keeping that reality in my mind is important, serving in the Church in the United States. And then I learned some things about our founder, John Wesley, that I didn't know, about how he set about to learn German and Spanish and Italian and some French so that he could, when he came to Georgia, so that he could minister with the people that he found here. And I was so inspired by that because I hadn't known it. And again, it's just another example of how I believe we Methodists are open to the world, and we just need to build on those foundations and live it out now in our own settings.
In 30 seconds, Patricia, what did inspire you from Phoenix to Harvard and now your call to ministry?
I love serving God's people. I love being with people, and I love working for a world of harmony and justice and peace with them and through them, with the grace of God undergirding it all. It is really my passion and my calling.
Thank you for being an inspiration with us today.